Vishwabham Subhadana Jaya Sadev Sisi Mad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Vishwabham Subhadana Jaya Sisi Mad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopika Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Go Premanande. All glories to Samaveda. All glories to Samaveda. All glories to Samaveda. All glories to CC Guru Gauranga.
Harekrishna, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday feast. Happy to have you all here tonight. So tonight we have a special guest speaker who is coming to us to remind us about Krishna consciousness. So, please direct your attention to this big seat over here, and we'll hear from Devamrita Swami. So a little background on Devamrita Swami here. So Devamrita Swami, he is a disciple of our founder Acharya of the Harekrishna movement, Srila Prabhupada. In 1973, after graduating from Yale University, Devamrita Swami embraced the monastic life of a Bhakti Yoga monk and was initiated by Srila Prabhupada. In 1982, Devamrita Maharaj became initiated into the sannyas order. He travels around the globe teaching the Vedic science of Bhakti Yoga. He's an ISKCON initiated guru, and if you've never heard him speak, you're in for an enlightening treat. So, American, please give me your attention for the next hour or so. Thank you. Oh yeah. Also, for those who have children, there is a Sunday school in the Krishna Lounge during the lecture time. So they're like Krishna children over there. More than welcome to.
Om Jnana Chimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're rapidly approaching the appearance day of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nrsimhadev. For those of you who don't know, you'll find everything in the ultimate source, the Supreme Absolute Truth. You'll find the Supreme Love, and you'll also find the Supreme Horror. Human beings like the full spectrum of emotional absorption. And that you will find in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You'll find the greatest fear, the greatest anger, the greatest love, all displayed in perfection. So what brought about the appearance of the half-man, half-lion incarnation of Godhead? Love for his devotee. Affection for the devotee Prahlad. This shows you the power of the bhakti lifestyle. You see, Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga, is not simply about having some kind of theology or beliefs or adherence to some particular creed. Bhakti, Krishna consciousness, is mostly about transforming your lifestyle so that by the way you live, what you do with your senses, you'll attract the attention of Krishna. It's very nice to believe in Krishna. It's very nice to adhere to a particular theology, but Krishna wants more. Krishna wants your love. And how does your love manifest? By what you do with your mind and senses. Therefore, twice in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks that you always think of him and become his devotee. If you're always thinking of Krishna, that means you are a devotee. Therefore, it's of utmost importance to think about your life and how your life is shaped. We were speaking this morning in our class at 8 a.m. about how everyone's life is marching to a certain beat. You're dancing to a particular tune. So if you really want to get on top of your life, we were talking this morning about if you really want to be in touch with your own life, you have to dig out from under the ground the story that's shaping your life. In other words, we've inherited a lot of baggage, a lot of assumptions, a lot of preferences, predilections, and we often don't take the time to think about our inherited baggage. There's so many assumptions and preconceptions that are shaping our vision of what is a successful life. And I'm sure you all want to be successful. America is a very success-orientated society. You know the joke about the American dream, I've probably told you before. Why do they call it the American dream? Because you have to be asleep to believe it. So this is a very success-oriented society, and that social pressure affects you. There's something that social psychologists call social conformity. It's very powerful. You pace your life according to what you see others achieving and accomplishing around you. As much as you try to be in denial, still, what others are getting, what others are purchasing, what others are attaining, you want for yourself. And because others are doing it, you're convinced that the goal is worthwhile. But what the bhakti yogi can do with the techniques of Krishna consciousness is something ordinarily very difficult. The Krishna conscious person has the ability to, first of all, dig up from under the ground all your foundational assumptions and hold them up to the light. Secondly, the Krishna conscious person can evaluate goals, can evaluate objectives. I'm standing on some assumptions, I'm standing on some foundational preconceptions, and I'm striving, I'm endeavoring to reach a particular goal, a particular accomplishment. Are the assumptions that I'm standing upon correct? And are the goals that I'm straining to reach, are they proper? It's not easy to get a grip on your own life, you know? It takes mind and sense control. So the Krishna conscious person, because he or she lives according to Dharma, is able to actually see what's going on with one's own life. That's a great luxury. We were speaking this morning about how there are various metaphors that unconsciously will shape your life. It's good to strive for understanding your foundational assumptions, because otherwise your whole life is lived almost on autopilot. Now that may be embarrassing to admit, but if there are so many unexamined preconceptions, stories, drumbeats, and rhythms that are driving your life, you're basically living according to someone else's tune. You're living on autopilot, meaning that we haven't examined what should our own objectives be. We haven't gone through what Arjuna went through at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Those of you who have read Bhagavad Gita know that Arjuna went through a grueling self-analysis, objective analysis. He presented to Krishna, how can we fight this war, this battle of Kurukshetra? There are members of the extended family on the other side. There are former friends and teachers on the other side. How can we fight them? I don't see how any good could come out of this, Krishna. All our options are bleak. And you know the result of Arjuna's deep introspection and also the result of his environmental scan. In other words, Arjuna is looking around at the situation that's surrounding him and looking within himself and coming up with the conclusion that Govinda, I shall not fight. So Bhagavad Gita, when properly read, puts you in the driver's seat for examining your life in a most thorough way. And that's so necessary for a progressive human being. And these days, it's a great luxury to have the headspace to look at your own life, to analyze what are the unconscious assumptions you call yourself, and what are the objectives you're striving to achieve. We're not saying out of hand that just because you're marching to someone else's beat that's bad automatically. We're not saying, for example, like in the 60s, never trust anyone over 30, don't trust your parents, don't do anything your parents say. No, but you have the responsibility to examine your own cultural inheritance, your own traditional inheritances, your own family baggage, and see whether you want to accept, whether you want to reject, or just modify, just tinker with it a bit. That's all we're saying. But where do you get the strength and clarity of vision to do that? This is why it is so important to have a bhakti lifestyle. Because at the very least, the Krishna conscious lifestyle brings you to the platform of goodness, material goodness, so that you can begin to see. As long as we're trying to drive and there's mud all over our window of the car, how are you going to see straight where you're going? You can floor the gas pedal all you want, but no matter how fast you go, you're not seeing where you're going. So this is the situation with society today. In the name of technological progress, in the name of economic development, any kind of character development has been tossed out of the window. Any kind of foresight, advanced vision of what is the direction we should be heading in, that's all tossed out simply for the sake of technological and economic development. In this way, people have lost themselves and they're walking anxiety cases. We were speaking this morning about some statistics which may be shocking to you. The World Health Organization, we explained this morning, just so you understand that in our Bhagavatam class in the morning, we talk about the real world. The real world as seen through Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are not some pie-in-the-sky, airy-fairy texts that present impossible to achieve lifestyles and impossible to achieve objectives. No, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam begins with a discussion about the coming of the age of Kali, this present age of darkness. The greatest sages and mystics could look ahead and see that there's coming a time when people will think that one life is all you get, that living a life dedicated to your senses and making money, that kind of so-called success is fine. So they can look ahead and see that. So the Bhagavatam is grounded in practical realities. These sages were having a convocation, a symposium. They were going to discuss, what do we do with the onslaught of this age of darkness rapidly upon us? How will the people be benefited? And indeed, as they predicted, that age has become what is the so-called real world. What to do? The World Health Organization has calculated that amongst all the developed nations in the world, the USA is among the least happy. That's in the first world. And of all developed nations, the #1 champion for anxiety disorders is the USA. By a wide margin, it won the championship. That means disorders that are significant enough that professional help is required. So, is this land of the free and home of the brave?
Furthermore, the World Health Organization has calculated statistically that in the lifetime of 1 out of every 3 Americans, they'll experience anxiety disorders to the degree that professional attention is required. 1 out of 3. And then we also spoke this morning about a declaration by the American Psychological Association, the biggest group of psychologists in the USA. They have declared that the USA is on the verge of a stress-induced public health crisis. Not this pandemic or that epidemic, but stress. The stress is so great, it's ready to be pronounced as a hazard on the level of a public health crisis. That means everyone should be on red alert about it. So these statistics are just a few out of so many that should make us think. Do I really know what success is? Is my success to be one of the 3 who has an anxiety disorder that requires professional treatment? In other words, do we place any value on our inner tranquility and our peace? What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita about peace? Krishna says, first of all, you have to control your mind and senses. That control of your mind and senses allows you to get knowledge. When there is knowledge, then, based on sense control, you can have peace. Only then can you talk about happiness. So in other words, there are prerequisites for happiness. It's not that happiness is just some kind of instant turn-on, some buzzy feeling you get. Happiness requires some qualification. And now we're not even speaking about transcendental love of Krishna. We're talking about ordinary civilized happiness, which actually doesn't exist so much these days. You need prerequisites. First, you need to control the mind and senses. You need the knowledge that will help you to engineer your own lifestyle so that you have self-discipline. Based on that self-discipline, you'll become peaceful. You'll become regulated in your desires, in your efforts to achieve your desires. All that will come about by an appropriate lifestyle. Therefore, in bhakti, in Krishna consciousness, lifestyle is so important. I call it lifestyle engineering. So once you have the prerequisites of knowledge, controlling the mind and senses, and by knowledge we don't mean ordinary technological prowess. We're referring to knowledge of what is the spiritual self and what are the material coverings of the self. When you have that kind of knowledge, and when you can control your mind and senses, then you can be peaceful. Only by attaining peace can you then try for the next step, which is happiness. Now, how many persons do you know who live like that? The propaganda is that happiness is just out there for the grabbing. Whether it's happiness in the form of, so-called happiness in the form of silicon chips or steel or plastic or flesh, it's all there for the grabbing. You haven't gotten your happiness today? What's wrong with you? Have you noticed that if you dare to admit to people that you're not happy and it's an ongoing phenomenon, they become very afraid of you? You can try this at a gathering of your relatives. Whether you're originally from India or originally from the USA, you can try this at your family gatherings. You can announce that you feel like you're a failure at material happiness. Watch the reactions. People will be sure there's something wrong with you. It's out there. We all know it. Happiness is there. You're not getting your happiness? you're doing something wrong. Of course, they themselves are not getting it, but no one will admit this. Everyone wants that you are successful, that they are successful. But how do you define success? You can look at it in the ordinary way. Success is like a box that has two smaller boxes inside. The first box is outer. That's the definition of success in terms of what the media recognizes. Social status, financial income, political power, economic resources, luxuries. This is what is celebrated externally as success. Then if you want to be a little deeper, you go into the other box, the internal success, in which you feel, I've done something, I've accomplished something. I've left some tracks in the sand. I've done good things. I have achieved. But both those kinds of successes are very superficial. They shift very quickly, and they do not satisfy the self. Srimad Bhagavatam, the graduate study to Bhagavad Gita, is concerned with what will thoroughly and realistically satisfy the self. Not some temporary financial gains, not some temporary gain in social prestige, and not even some temporary feeling that I've done it, I've achieved. Life should go much deeper than that. So again, we need to analyze the story underneath our life. What's driving us onward? And often we'll find we're on autopilot. Well, I thought this is what you're supposed to do. This is what everyone does. If we push further with our introspection about success, we'll find that actually we want to be happy. Success means happiness. But just as we have difficulty defining what is success for ourselves, we also have difficulty defining what is happiness. It's just something you should have, right? You should be happy. And you, in today's consumer society, you are filled with so much guilt. At every moment, you have to ask yourself the question, am I happy right now? This is all over the world, this phenomenon, this happiness anxiety. It's even happening in India. If you're going to be a truly advanced, progressive human being, you have to have happiness anxiety. Am I achieving all that I could be achieving right now? Do I love my job? Am I following my passion? Am I with the person that I should be with? At every moment, you have to be asking yourself those questions. You can't rest in peace. We're so wired to be happy that we have no peace because we actually don't know what real happiness is. So, approaching Lord Nrsingadeva's appearance day, we can remember the instruction that the great 5-year-old devotee, he was 5 years old, that is, when he gave such brilliant instructions. We can remember what Prahlad said about happiness. He said that the whole purpose of human life is to strive for reviving our relationship with Krishna. We shouldn't delay that, thinking it's something you only do when you're old. Prahlad was 5 years old. He's setting such an extraordinary example. He's telling his schoolmates at school, now is the time to be Krishna conscious. From the very beginning of life. Or, failing that, from whatever point in your life you begin to understand the necessity. He explained, Durlabham manasam janma, even though the janma, the human birth, is so difficult and rare to get, and even though it's temporary, Trapyadruva artadam, although it's adruva, temporary, it still has arta, It still has value. Generally, if someone uses their intelligence, they realize that something that comes and goes so quickly has very little value. You want to find what is eternal. But Prahlad is pointing out the Vedic perspective that even though the human body is indeed temporary, it does have value. That you can understand what is God, what is the self, and what is the relationship between the two. So then Prahlad tells us something very interesting. He says it's natural for reviving your relationship with Krishna. Just as natural as it is for a child to have a relationship with a parent. In other words, bhakti yoga is not difficult. Once we deal with all these false preconceptions and assumptions that are burdening us, all this cultural baggage, some of it may be good, some of it is bad. There needs to be some adjustment. So Prahlad says, don't worry, don't think it's an imposition on your life to develop Krishna consciousness. It's as natural to do it as a son establishing a relationship with the father and mother. And why is it so natural? He says, Priya Atmeshvara Suhrit. Krishna is the most dear to us. Furthermore, Krishna is Atmeshvara. Krishna is the master of the self. And Krishna is Suhrit. Krishna is the friend of everyone. So if you put all that together, Prahlad is saying that Krishna is the most dear, Priya. He's the master of the self, Atmeshvara. He's Suhrit, everyone's best friend. What could be the difficulty in establishing or re-establishing a relationship with Krishna? But then Prahlad says something very surprising and shocking. He says, although it's so easy to revive our relationship with Krishna, going to hell requires hard work. Think about that. To pursue the temporary so-called pleasures, to pursue so-called success and happiness as it's being presented to us in a consumer society, it's a great struggle. And Prahlad's pointing out that what will be the result of all that karmic activity? The result is we'll become even more bound by the laws of nature. Our suffering increases, not only in this life, but in future births. Prahlad is so knowledgeable and so convinced and able to convince others, even though he's 5 years old. Therefore, his bhakti attracted the attention of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those of you who know the history from the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam about how Lord Nrsingadev, the half-man, half-lion incarnation of Godhead, appeared and dispatched Hiranyakashipu, the great Stalinistic terrorist. You should know, though, that actually the main purpose of Lord Nrsingadev's appearance was not to finish off Hiranyakashipu because of his horrendous acts. The appearance of Lord Nrsingadev was basically out of affection for Prahlad. In other words, Prahlad's bhakti lifestyle was so extraordinary that he was able to attract the attention of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that way. We can have access to that same mercy not by imitating Prahlad, but by following Prahlad's instructions. How to live a Krishna conscious life even while within the material world. Those of you who have a Christian background may remember how in the New Testament, Jesus is said to have said, you should be in the world but not of the world. Now this is actually in a capsule, very high bhakti philosophy. How is it possible to live in the world and not be of the world? That is what Krishna is teaching Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. The whole Bhagavad Gita explains that simple point. Therefore, you can count on Bhagavad Gita for being applied spiritual technology. how to, for example, live under the ocean without getting wet. How do you live in the material world and not be of the material world? This is Arjuna's perplexity in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, if I fight as you suggest I do, isn't that karmic activity? Don't I become implicated in action and reaction? So Krishna explained to Arjuna that if you sacrifice the results for the Supreme, then even though you seem to be acting, you're not acting. In other words, you're doing non-reactive work. This coming appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev is a good time to reflect on where's my life going and why. Another point we were discussing this morning is about metaphors that shape your life. I mentioned briefly in the beginning tonight. Is your life like a race? That's a common metaphor. You've always got to make sure you're not falling behind in the race. You've got to win or be right in the front, second place at worst. And the greatest fear is that you'll stumble and fall and others will trample you. Not only will you lose the race, but you'll be trampled. How many of you, and when I speak at universities throughout the USA, I ask this question. Please give me an honest answer. How many of you, when you were little, you played musical chairs? Raise your hand. Do you remember the fear, the horror, when the music stopped and you didn't have a chair? Unforgettable, wasn't it? That fear is what's driving so many people today. When the music stops, I don't have a chair. In fact, you want to commit suicide. How many of you, when the music stopped and you didn't have a chair, tried to squeeze onto the chair of another kid? Will you believe it when I tell you that same mentality is in the adults? You haven't outgrown it. There's this fear. Especially seeing your life as a race. You've got to stay ahead. You've got to win. And don't fall behind. Don't you dare stumble. You're finished. Can you grasp that fear that's so all-pervasive? Then there's another metaphor we discussed this morning that is very common in terms of how people see their life. You're climbing a ladder. It's you and the ladder. There's no room for anyone else on the ladder. Just like you have a ladder, maybe in your garage or somewhere in your home for various home repair purposes. How many persons can fit on your ladder at home? So the ladder that you have in your mind's eye is just a one-person ladder, and it's got rungs, and it leads to the top. But you don't worry about that no one else can fit on the ladder except you. You want to get to that top of the ladder. Only if you get to the top, and that's not guaranteed, of course, do you realize it's lonely on the top rung. Maybe you know some persons who have so-called achieved the top rung on the ladder, and then realize, I'm up here all alone. Or else you realize, maybe I climbed the wrong ladder. Now that I achieved the top rung, I realize I wanted something else. So both these metaphors are very inappropriate for driving your life. What's the best metaphor? That you'll find in Krishna's pastimes. Krishna and his cowherd boys who were wandering through the forest. And it was a hot summer day. But there's no misery in Krishna's pastimes because Krishna is a supreme enjoyer and his energies arrange everything for his pleasure. So while he and his cowherd boys are wandering, the trees in Vrindavan forest are shielding Krishna and his friends from the heat. See, Krishna, when he travels through the forest, it's done in such a beautifully organized way. He has 8 cowherd boys protecting all 8 directions. Then he has 1 cowherd boy who's holding an umbrella, and another cowherd boy who's clearing the path ahead of the ensemble of cowherd boys and Krishna. And Balaram is also there. So actually, that's 10 directions. 8 all around, and 1 up and 1 down. And then far ahead is the leader of the cowherd boys, Bhadrasena. So they're wandering through the forest. And then Krishna decides to glorify the trees. Aho esham varam janma sarvapran upajivanam. Oh, how superior is the birth as a tree. Now normally you think to be a tree is a very miserable situation, and from most points of view it is. But Krishna wants to point out that the tree, its existence, is the most appropriate metaphor for a successful life. Aho eshambram janma sarvapranupajīvanam sujanasyeva yesham vai vamukha yanti nartana. The trees are like saintly persons, because whoever approaches either a saintly person or a tree never goes away disappointed. Krishna further explains that the tree is always giving. It gives its flowers, it gives its fruit, it gives its bark, it gives its sap, it gives its own wood, it gives shade, it gives shelter. This is the metaphor for a truly successful life. And it's the same metaphor that Krishna came and gave as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, giving Krishna away, said that he is a gardener growing a tree of love of Krishna. Not only is he the gardener, but he's also the tree itself. And he's also the one who enjoys and distributes the fruits of that tree. He chose the example of a tree because a tree exists for the service of others. Lord Chaitanya commented that, how can I distribute all the fruits of this tree alone? I need help. Not that the Supreme Personality of Godhead needs help to do anything, but Lord Chaitanya is establishing that the Sankirtan movement of chanting and dancing and glorifying Krishna is a social event. It's not a solitary event. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, says, I can't do all this distribution work alone. Who will help? And then he describes how sweet and juicy the fruits are. Anyone who tastes the fruits of that desire tree of devotional service, they become intoxicated. Wouldn't it be so much better if we would consider our life as a tree? What can I give to others? What are the true gifts that I can place in others' hands? Rather than seeing yourself running a race or climbing a ladder, think about yourself as a tree that exists for the benefit of others. Of course, then we have to become qualified to benefit others. And that is what the bhakti education is all about. How to be truly qualified to love and care for others. Otherwise, the whole world is full of persons who want to love and care without qualification. In other words, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm part of, I don't know what is the self, I don't know what is God, but I want to care for you. This attitude is what is ruining the world. So in Krishna consciousness, we don't decry persons wanting to love and care. We say, it's very good that you want to love and care. Now will you please find out how to do that? Find out what is real love and care. You wouldn't want someone who just had a warm feeling in their heart, but no medical knowledge or certification. You wouldn't want them to operate on you, would you? Look, I see that you have some heart problems. I have no medical training, but that's not what matters. What counts is the warm feeling I have. I want to be sensitive. I want to care. I want to love. Allow me to operate on your heart. You say, no way, you have no qualification. Similarly, I'm saying the whole world is full of persons who want to love and care, but they've never taken the trouble to become qualified to do that. And this is Krishna's point to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. You're lamenting about something that's not worthy of grief. You're acting as if you have no qualification. You're acting as if you're someone who lacks spiritual knowledge. So in this way, Krishna consciousness is the essential for everyone if someone truly wants to be civilized. You can indeed become a tree that distributes fruits that benefit everyone. Lord Chaitanya was so eager not only to be the gardener, but he wanted to be the tree itself so that he could exist for the benefit of others. To truly do that requires the highest knowledge and the best lifestyle. And that you can have as a Krishna conscious person. You can have the best knowledge, you can have the best lifestyle, and then you can truly benefit and care for others. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We're due for some kirtan at 6:45, is that so?
I have a question, Swamiji.
Hold on. You could take a few questions if you want. We usually don't we go to 7?
Yeah. We
Oh.
So you got no. It's Krishna's arrangement. So you can take some questions.
Okay. Yes, please.
Prabhu, thank you so much for coming. I wish we didn't have to let you go. Hare Krishna. If a devotee of Krishna is all alone and has no support system at all, and does not want to be a burden on anyone, and has extremely bad health, and if he, at the time of getting a little older, if the person goes to a certain part of Varanasi, I'm told that certain parts of Varanasi are very holy, and if you should jump into the Ganges over there, you probably would die instantly because you're not very well anyway. Does that give you moksha, or is that still very wrong?
Better that you get some guidance how you can use your life for Krishna service until it becomes clear that there's no more point in maintaining the body. The bhakti requires guidance. So you should consult with others, consult with senior devotees, how you can shape your life in its present situation for maximum use in Krishna's service.
And if one cannot give service because of really bad health, then what should one do?
First, consult, because there's often always something that can be done.
Is a person like that better off in India or better off here?
First,
She's
get
really
guidance.
trying to get to that river.
First, get some guidance. Bhakti requires guidance.
From whom?
Find someone who knows the science of Krishna. There's so many at this temple. And ask them, how do you shape your life? How do you engineer your lifestyle for best use in Krishna's service? All right?
Thank you, Swamiji.
Anything else? Yes.
Can you explain a little why devotees suffer? Like, Prahlad Maharaj was such a wonderful devotee, and Lord Srinivadeva came for him, to protect him, but yet he suffered so much at the hands of Hiranyakasipu. So why do devotees have to suffer like that?
Prahlad Maharaj's circumstances were suffering But he did not suffer. He was beyond the bodily conception of life. Conceptions of suffering are tied to the body. And Prahlad certainly understood he was not the body. Do you know what the secret is to what Prahlad was actually feeling? Srila Prabhupada revealed it. Prahlad Maharaj thought, through all the tortures and murderous attempts by his father, he thought his father was playing with him. And therefore, after Lord Nrsingadev killed his father, and Nrsingadev asked Prahlad, what benediction would you like? The only thing Prahlad could think of was, can you please benefit my father? Prahlad was always tolerant and humble in dealing with his father. At the same time, he was non-cooperative. And as we spoke last night at Mahabala's house, Prahlad would sometimes get sarcastic with his father. When he told his father, Matirna Krishna Padatasvatova Mito Bipajeta Grihavratanam. His father was intent on trying to understand, Prahlad, where did this inclination to serve Krishna come from? The father, being demoniac, had to track down where this pathogen came from. So Prahlad assured him, it can't come from any material person, especially a demon like you, Dad. You are Grihavrata. You are firmly resolute about trying to enjoy material life. For you, there'll never be an inclination to be Krishna conscious. Adanta Gobiyat Vishatam Tamishram. Dad, you are making progress. But where? You're making progress towards hell. Similarly, we say about the current civilization, it has made progress. But to where? People are so disturbed that 1 out of 3 are having anxiety disorders. And who cares about what the next life will be? So therefore, Prahlad, with his gentle sarcasm, gave his pronouncement, Puna Puna Charvata Charvananam. Your whole lifestyle, Hiranyakashipu, is based on chewing that which has already been chewed. How many times do doctors say you should chew every mouthful? Who knows?
36.
33, 36. Yes.
That's time consuming.
Yes. But, we have any doctors here? No. So, 32, 33 times you're supposed to chew each mouthful. What does Puna Puna Charvata Charvananam mean? After you've chewed 33 times, would you dare offer the contents to someone else to relish? So this is Prahlad's sarcasm. But he does it in such an eloquent way, while at the same time being humble and tolerant. And while his father is ordering him to be trampled by elephants, bitten by poisonous snakes, put in a vat of boiling oil, thrown off of a cliff, chopped up by prison guards, while all this is happening, Prahlad's thinking, my father's playing with me. And Prahlad is simply focused on meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, he's showing you the perfection of Bhakti Yoga. So yes, Prahlad's example is very extraordinary, but his instructions that he gives can be followed by everyone. Okay? But no, he never suffered misery because he understood he's not the body. He had that perfect realization. That's the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, to understand you're different from the body. Later, in his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, Prahlad will say, there's only one anxiety he has. He says, I'm not afraid of material existence. It doesn't bother me. There's only one thing that disturbs me, and that is the suffering of the conditioned souls who are so madly marching down the path of destruction. That's the only thing that bothers me. Otherwise, Prahlad says, I'm absorbed in the Mahamrita. I'm absorbed in the great ocean of hearing and chanting about Krishna. Material existence doesn't bother me, but I do have an anxiety for those who are in illusion. And Prahlad even went to the extent of saying, let me remain in the material world to help all these people. He's so concerned about the others. This is a Vaishnava. This is a Krishna conscious person. Remember the metaphor of the tree? Prahlad wanted to give everything for the welfare of others. Just like a tree gives its wood, its bark, its sap, its flowers, its fruits, its branches, its leaves, its twigs, everything. It gives shelter in the hot sun. It gives shade. So this is the example that Lord Chaitanya repeated from Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, when Krishna glorified the tree as the perfect metaphor for how we should live our life. Yes. Arasuna Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
What about devotees who have not achieved perfection and are put through certain extreme situations of suffering? Why would Krishna do that?
It's essential for a Krishna conscious person to understand that Krishna knows how to best develop our Krishna consciousness. This takes a while for us to concede the point that actually we don't know best how we should be Krishna conscious, but Krishna knows how to bring it out of us. It takes a while and some bhakti knowledge to admit that. Otherwise, we'll always remain neophytes. It's like a child. Like if your daughter never trusted you. She's always in anxiety. Has father paid the mortgage? Have the car payments been made? But she's been taken care of so nicely. That involves trust. Similarly, part of the bhakti process is to develop trust in Krishna, that Krishna knows what's best for me. So even though something may seem like suffering to ordinary vision, we can't see the internals. We don't see how that devotee has an opportunity to deepen the relationship with Krishna. Krishna's not a sadist, you know. This material body is problematic. We can't blame Krishna for that. But Krishna is giving you something beyond the body. That we have to learn to see. If we base our evaluation of Krishna's mercy on us simply by analyzing the state of our body, we're in for some problems. The body is a bag of problems. It may look beautiful for a while, it may look handsome and strong for a while, but let's face it, the body is a bag of problems. But living in a consumer society means we're brainwashed into thinking this body is a pleasure unit. And we're in anxiety. Where's my pleasure? Where's my happiness? When I'm speaking at universities, I always point out to the students, you're having so many relationship problems because they're all based on the body. Your relationships are all based on the body. And they all look down at the floor. Because they know it's so difficult for a young person to have relationships these days. They don't know how to have relationships, even from the material point of view. Everything is hook up and hook off. And they're embarrassed by it. I watch their faces when I say this. They're totally embarrassed because it's like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, you're supposed to be with someone, but how do you be with someone in a way that you can be happy beyond just a one-night affair? It's become such a great mystery. Krishna knows how to deal with us best so that we'll achieve the ultimate goal, coming back to Him. So it takes a while for us to trust Krishna and relinquish our own attachment to knowing what's best ourselves. Just like if your daughter never let you raise her, and just at every step, the moment she's born, this is what I want to happen, Dad. This is what I want you to do. This is how I want you to arrange for me. And never at all allowed you to shape her life. Of course, now that she's an adult, it's different, but as a little kid, you'd be considered highly irresponsible to allow that to happen. Krishna is what Prahlad said. Priya, Admeshwara, Surit. Krishna is the most dear. Krishna is the master of the self. That means not that he's the master of his self, he's the master of our self. And Surit, he's the well-wisher of everyone. So Prahlad says, therefore there's no difficulty in trusting and establishing a relationship with Krishna if you understand Krishna has those characteristics. By the attentive process of chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasad, associating with devotees, you begin to trust Krishna, even in what others would call the greatest crisis, the greatest challenges. And this morning we were talking about how Kunti Devi demonstrates that in Srimad Bhagavatam. So much so that she says, I don't mind crises, I don't mind challenges. Let them happen again and again, because then Krishna is with us more. This is how brilliant bhakti is, that even the greatest challenges and crises, such as what the Pandavas went through, they can be used as a device to bring Krishna closer. This is the most brilliant spiritual technology. How even a so-called disaster can bring the greatest good. Kunti Devi said the real disaster is if Krishna goes. Not that we have some so-called calamity. The real disaster if Krishna leaves us and goes back to Dwarka. She's completely flipping over our material conceptions as to what is a crisis, what's a setback, and what is a gain. The gain is Krishna is here. I always remember the story told by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj when he was with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj during his last days. And from one point of view, while they were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita together, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was in so much pain that he was shaking. But internally, something else was going on. As they were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj suddenly exclaimed, "We've made it! We're here! Don't you feel it? We've made it!" In other words, the perfect hearing of Krishna Katha is that you understand you're in Krishna's association. So on the one hand, you would say, such pain, apparent pain. On the other hand, the spirit soul is rejoicing, being with Krishna. So what is the real gain? What's the real wealth? That we always need to be reminded about. And now that Nrsingadeva's appearance day is coming, we can remember Prahlad's constant stressing in his instructions. What is real wealth? What is real victory? What is real accomplishment? How can we truly be successful? Thank you. Hare Krishna. A little kirtan?
Yes, we have a little kirtan.
Thank you. Thank you. All around. Do we stand up or sit?
Yeah, we stand up.
Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.